Welcome to Neoplanet S, and we have two players for you here today. It is, in the lower left corner of the map, the red Protoss player, EGiNcontroL, RC.
And his opponent spawning in the top right, going to be none other than the Blue Zerg, playing for Root Gaming. It is going to be Vibe.
Yeah, I actually had the pleasure of casting Vibe recently as well against Australian Pro Zerg player Pig. And I gotta tell you, I was really impressed with Vibe's playstyle. So I personally haven't cast Vibe since Hardest Form launched PvZ. I would love to see how he handles in control though.
Absolutely, I was about to say the exact same thing. I haven't really seen much of Vibe since the release of Pops, but, well, we're going to be seeing some of it right now, so I'm really interested to see what he pulls out here. The map's going to be Neoplanet S, so a map that's kind of interesting for a ZVP, simply because like both races generally don't like this map all that much.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had a lot of people are really jaded about this map. You either love it or you absolutely hate it.
Pretty much. I mean, it's very, very difficult to take a third on this base. Take a third base on this map, rather. I think probably more so for the Protoss than for the Zerg, but
I'm
while
curious,
it's really
actually.
hard for the Protoss to take a third, it's equally difficult. Like, it's even more difficult for the Zerg to take a fourth.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I was discussing this with somebody recently about how the introduction, like, I'm not saying they should. I love that there's no watchtowers on this map, but we were talking about how the introduction of a watchtower would actually make making a third / a fourth a lot easier on this map. I wonder what your thoughts are on that.
I don't really know how you would make that possible.
Well, I think the biggest threat is like I've actually seen firsthand. This is ZVZ, not ZVP, of course. So guys, please forgive me for the irrelevance temporarily. But the coolest thing I've seen on this map was we had player. I can't remember who it was. It was from North America though. Basically, they went for the third base, lower left corner of the map. We had the hit coming from the top, going through the southern banana hallway, or not banana hallway. Sorry, the crescent shape, whatever, the lower part of the map, the attack path. And because there was not enough Overlord spread on the vision. He actually juked out entirely and went the other path. So, he's coming down the main middle part and then headed south for the very lowest most path. And the army, which was ready to intercept in the middle of the map, found nothing there because he had just completely circumvented and gone for the third base hit instead.
I think the trouble isn't really so much, like, that there's all of these hallways. I think the trouble is that it's so far away, like...
Yeah.
The third base is so far away, it's so hard for the Protoss to actually defend that, and it's so hard for the Zerg to spread his creep down there. And the same thing can be said for the fourth as well. The fourth base as well is very, very wide open generally. There's two entrances, three if you come around and flank from the side as well. If you take the general fourth base, not
if you can come in from that third hit, your opponent's defense absolutely sucks.
Well,
it should really only be two.
It's pretty difficult to defend anyway because, I mean, you're pushing in from the high ground from one of these areas as well, so it's really difficult to take a good engagement around the fourth, but, well, we'll see if we get that far. We are seeing Vibe going for a very, very early third hatch, so he's playing pretty standard so far.
Yeah.
In control as well, just going to be going for a standard forge fast expand.
That's always kind of the reaction, though. I feel there's so few Zergs who attempt to punish the Forge Fast Expand. And granted, it's not actually even that viable to always try and go for that punishing move, but yeah, going for the third base will allow Vibe to kind of just ease himself into the macro game. No problem, no hassles.
Absolutely. It's very difficult to punish this at all on this map. The choke is so narrow at the natural. So...
One thing I'm really curious about in control, I know that a lot of the North American players aren't keeping up with the same sort of quote-unquote meta that the European players play with, and EG they've got their own style to things, and right now I feel Penguin, a lot of the matchups I see for PvZ, I'm speaking very generically, so not about either of these players, is like, you get the Protoss, they try and go for the Forge Fast Expand, leads into either heavy Robo play or Phoenix play to bait out Hydralisk to then go for later Colossus, but I kind of feel like no matter what the Protoss player goes for, as long as Vibe has got some really good control, and if he does, like, say, Roach Hydra with Vipers, he's going to beat any army that in control has.
What I'm really interested to see here is whether or not Vibe goes for the new style of mass lings into ultras with the super early double upgrades. That's something that we've been seeing a lot since DreamHack. Leenock really popularized it to the point where a lot of people are calling it a Leenock build, even though my teammate Wilco actually pointed out earlier that it was the creator did it first. But...
Actually, Mass Links is pretty ridiculous. Like, whether it's on the very high professional level or on the semi-good Masters level. I mean, recently we had the show match with Bowman and BioIce, and the exact thing you're describing happened about. Just a flood of Links, overwhelming. Didn't matter that there were Colossus on the field. If there's way too many Links, you just can't keep up with that.
Yeah, generally what you see players do is they'll continue Queen production, which is something that Vibe is actually... Yeah, Vibe is continuing Queen production so far, so... And he's getting 10 lanes out. This is probably just to defend against these two initial zealots. But generally what you'll see players do is they'll continue queen production, they'll just get a ton of lanes out to try to deny the third of the Protoss player. And what they'll do is they'll get really fast double upgrades. And then by the time a Colossus timing hits, not only do the lings have 2-2, but you have like 8 queens as well, which can also go towards focusing down the Colossi.
Queens are really nice. Like, forget the Colossus for just 1 second. Their health full combined with Transfuse makes them the stupidest, pardon my lack of English, the stupidest goodest tanks there ever done was.
Absolutely, Rifkin. That is fantastic English right there.
Shut him up. But look, we do have yeah, we got the Phoenixes coming out of EGiNcontroL, so I mean, like I said, this will probably not be an over-dedication. If I had to guess, it's probably about 3, maybe he'll go as high as 5, but the idea is to try and make Vibe go for those Hydralisks. That's what EGiNcontroL wants.
Yeah, and we'll see exactly how Vibe responds to this. He is getting that layer up, so with only one Evo Chamber coming down, it's not going to be... I mean, usually he'd already have 1-1 almost complete for the Ling style at this point, so he's definitely not going for that. He could be going for +1 ranged attacks going into the Hydras, like you were thinking earlier on, and, well, he's actually scouting what's going on here. He sees the Overlord sees the Phoenixes, so he knows...
Yeah, ranged attack starts immediately after losing the Overlord to those Phoenixes. Hydra didn't coming down too, so I mean... This isn't exactly Vibe playing into the hands of EGiNcontroL. Like, he's not going, everything going according to plan. Like, this is just kind of the standard of the way games evolve, because if you don't go for the Hydrals, the Phoenixes will actually run amok over pretty much everything you have. They're such hard units to shut down.
This is really interesting. It looks like EGiNcontroL wants to go for a 2-base Colossus all in here. He's going up to 6 gateways. He has that Stargate as well. He could try to add on a couple more Void Rays or something to add some more DPS. We already saw a Queen get picked off by these Phoenixes, so they're doing their jobs reasonably well so far. 4 of them now on the map, so he can try to pick up a Queen and kill it in 1 lift. But of course the Spores are going to be a little irritating to this. I'm really interested to see how much this push from EGiNcontroL does. It's not going to be coming for a while. He doesn't have the Rebel Bay even started yet. Presumably he will start that pretty soon. But, well, this is going to be really tough to hold with Ling Hydra, which is what Vibe is going for so far.
Yeah, Hydralists absolutely shred pretty much everything in the Protoss army. It just comes down to a combination of force fields and the range of the Colossus that give them that advantage to actually melt them down. And, you know, I mentioned it very briefly earlier, but the introduction of the Viper is so ridiculous, Penguin. Having a Colossus get gripped into a group of 10-15 Hydralisks, just watching it melt like butter is disgusting.
Yeah, Colossi are generally these units that stay alive for a very long time and have really big damage output, but it's really their range, like you were saying, that keeps them alive for so long. People oftentimes forget they have very little health, very little armor. And
oh,
so
Penguin!
Oh, yeah, the Lings trying
these
to
force fields, gotta go down, there we go.
Nice. Yeah, that's actually a very nice pick up for EGiNcontroL there. He's going to get about 10 free Lings. And at this point, with Vibe on 3 base and EGiNcontroL going for this 2-base play, every single unit that Vibe has is important at this point.
Oh, Vibe already has
the Hydras engaging in the middle of the map against the Phoenixes. Looks like the Phoenixes did pick off 2 Hydras, but 1 goes down, and they are being sort of sandwiched in here. They are taking a little more damage here, but EGiNcontroL is going to be able to juke his way out of that little trap.
Yeah, I was going to mention, he's already got the +1 range from Group Spines. He's also got Muscular Augments on the way. We actually have Swarm Hosts. I thought that Infestation Pit was purely going to be for the Hive, but you know what? Swarm Hosts are pretty darn good in this matchup, too.
This is very interesting. A lot of times, Swarm Hosts are used right now mainly for either sort of really, really gimmicky all-in stuff that we saw, like we saw TLO do against 91, DreamHack, and WCS, or like super, super late-game turtle play on like 5 bases. And this is actually going to be neither of those, so I'm very interested to see what Vibe can accomplish with these, because he's just going for them as part of his composition here, and, well, he's getting the Enduring Locust as well, so...
Let's not forget, the damage of the Locust is pretty darn good. I know everyone harps on them for being free units, I won't be that caster who reminds everybody, guys, they're free units, but the thing is, you gotta consider, each Locust that pops out is basically a Hydralisk. The damage is so ridiculous.
Well, I mean, the big thing there is that, like, of course, the range is only 2, so a lot of them die before they do connect. But the fact of the matter is, even though people harp on it a lot, they are free units. And, oh, actually, they need to burrow because this army is kind of out of position here. Good force fields going down. The Locusts will not be able to connect.
Oh, but Vibe does lose a large amount of Hydralisks to those force fields.
Yeah, that was really, really nice here. And I don't know if EGiNcontroL can push into this, just because there are quite a few of these Swarm Hosts already out.
He might be feeling a little cocky after picking off those Hydralisks. I mean, moving around the map, if he had a mothership core with this to recall, I would agree with the push. You know, do as much damage and just get the heck out. But looks like he just wants to defend this third base location right now. Typically a fourth, but
he wanted to take his standard third, but there is an Overlord blocking creep there. And we are seeing him go into Colossus Void right now. He's continuing Void Ray production out of that Stargate, but this is so many Swarm Hosts that we have on the map at this point. We have 18 Swarm Hosts, Rifkin. They do only have +1, so the upgrades are not phenomenal, but the upgrades for EGiNcontroL aren't that great either. They're only 1/1.
Yeah, but the big problem is the lack of Colossus. You really need that solid number of 4+ Colossus to deal with Locust waves, and right now with only 2, he's going to lose units every single wave that these hit. It's not going to be a lot, but he's going to lose them nonetheless.
There's so many Locusts, man. I like that he's actually leaving the Immortal in the front to tank them, but the Immortal actually does barely survive here. No, it's alive with 1 health.
The Immortal's actually the most...
Time Warp going down.
Oh man, these Hydralisks pushing forward. But he's got these Locusts to deal with before he can even touch the Hydralisks. Some Force Fields will catch some more off guard though. But the thing is, the Immortal, it's actually the most useless unit in his army composition right now. It's not going to soak damage from Hydralisks. It doesn't do bonus damage outwards. I mean, the cost for that Immortal could have been 2 or 3 Stalkers, way more effective than the one singular Immortal. But either way, that's kind of irrelevant with how many Locusts are just pumping into this base location.
This base is going to die. This is really, really painful to watch here. Actually, the Locusts are going to expire, so he may well be able to keep this alive, and he does. The Hydras do flee, trying to pick off a free Colossus here, but they're not going to be able to. Man, these Colossi are getting so many kills from these Locusts. We have about 100 kills between these 3 Colossi at this point so far.
Well, the really important part is Vibe, you know, that little bit of miscontrol actually has given away most of his Hydralisks at this point. And the thing for EGiNcontroL is, while he's only got a couple Void Rays, if there's no Hydralisks to stop the Void Rays, they will run over the Swarm Hosts.
The Swarm Host Locusts are connecting very, very well. Nice concave on the Hydras here as well. But there's just so much DPS from these Colossi, like you were saying. But Vibe's control with the Swarm Host is impeccable. Burrowing them just when they have a charge, and unburrowing them and running them away. They now have a charge again, immediately burrows them, and they're able to unload those Locusts.
The biggest problem is, this thing that's been keeping EGiNcontroL alive through all of this is A, the lack of Vipers, but B, his own Force Fields. His Force Fields are about to run out. He's only got enough energy for about 2 or 3 maybe, and that's not going to be enough to hold off this many Locusts and Hydras. He's going to lose that Colossus in the back. Void Ray falls as well.
Absolutely, and well, he's continuing to push forward. Once again, burrowing those Swarm Hosts just when he has a charge. Perfect control on the Swarm Host so far. 3 Vipers around on the map. They don't really have enough energy to do anything just yet, but they will be able to consume one of these buildings, and
he might not need them
very, very deadly.
He might not even need them.
This is looking very, very scary here. The Locusts are going to expire pretty soon, but there's no real defense on this 3rd base for EGiNcontroL.
Yeah, a couple Zealots warping in desperately. I mean, EGiNcontrol's got the army composition he wants, but Vibe is just powering through. This is the definition of brute force, Penguin.
Absolutely. Gets down a Photon Overcharge, doing his best to focus down some of the non-free units, and he is going to hold this location once again.
EGiNcontroL with some impeccable defense, but, I mean, he's really just on the rocks because Vibe with 4 bases is happy to keep throwing away these free units. Look at this. The resources lost is not big, but it's definitely in the favor of Vibe. That Colossus is getting ripped in.
Colossus. And another Colossus just walking forward of its own accord, but the Void Ray is doing very well to zone out those Vipers, and the Colossi are staying alive for the most part. One of them up to 86 kills.
EGiNcontroL, wow. He doesn't have any high Templar on the field. Without a good way to feed back and deal with those Vipers, these Colossus are in permanent states of I'm almost dead. Because the second they get abducted, as we saw, it just melted, Penguin. And now the Nexus will fall despite being focused. Oh, the Stalkers are just not good enough. You can't keep up with those Hydras. Stutter step from the left, Locust from the right. Penguin, this is really not looking good for EGiNcontroL.
He's been doing a really good job trying controlling his army, but Vibe is he's just got too much at this point. He's got a 4th base up and running, he's got a 5th base on the way, and he's just in such an impeccable position here. I feel like EGiNcontroL is falling apart at the seams right now. He's distance mining from his 3rd base, which just doesn't have a Nexus there because he never cleared up this Overlord.
Oh my
goodness. And this is definitely looking good for Vibe.
I didn't take 2 seconds to look at Vibe's bank right now. 8k minerals right now, Penguin. What is this?
Yeah, he's not losing any of his Hydras. He's just losing Locusts.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. Well, the army of EGiNcontroL just he's going all out, man. And it's just not going to be enough. He can't...
Yeah, I mean, he can't defend against the Swarm Host. He has to try to push forward.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, even if he does a lot of damage, he can't race. It's 2 bases to 5. Vibe is so spread across the map. He's happy to lose his multiple bases. In fact, he's actually going to come home and defend this.
This is actually good for EGiNcontroL at this point. He's left his natural alive. Vibe has left his natural alive, and he's picked off 1 base. This is as good as it could get for EGiNcontroL, but it's still going to be very difficult to pick this off. He gets 1 Swarm Host, but the other one's Burrow. There's no Observer here. There's nothing to deal with these Swarm Hosts, and there's the GG called by EGiNcontroL. Vibe takes this game.
Yeah, that's not a fun situation to be stuck in, no matter who you are.
Not really, indeed. No. Swarm hosts are pretty good.